provided as specified in the Act. Proper notice of this open public meeting was provided in a notice of January 20th, 2020. Said notice was posted at the entrance of the Board of Education office, mailed to the Nutley Township Clerk, sent to Tap Into Nutley, advertised in the Nutley Sun on February 6, 2020, and posted on a district website. A revised meeting notice was sent out on July 23rd, 2020, advising that this meeting was a virtual online meeting. For the flag salute, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have a moment of silence, please, before we take the roll call for family and friends that are dealing with some difficult times right now. Thank you very much. We'll take the roll call, please, Mr. Kukuza.
Mr. Carnicello?
Here.
Mrs. Dancheck Martin?
Here.
Mr. DeMayo? Mr. Ferraro?
Here.
Mrs. Quirk?
Here.
Mr. Riley?
Here.
Mr. Valera?
It's a Cedar Grove's Bay. I think it's Cedar Grove's Bay. What's up, Frank?
Okay. Mrs. Valera?
I'm here.
Ms. Arrow?
Here.
Mr. Kaczynski?
I'm here. Did we get everybody? Okay.
Mr. President, Frank DeMayo just joined. Sorry. I was having
Yeah, I got you. I got you.
Okay. We see you. That's good enough. All right. Thank you. Correspondence. Is there any correspondence tonight? Thank you. I need approval of the minutes, please.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Riley, seconded by Mr. Scalera. Dr. Glazer.
Good evening, everybody. It's nice to see that we still have a consistently large group tuning in, even virtually. I am excited to tell you that we were able to bring our youngest learners, our pre-K and kindergarten learners, they're starting their second week this week in the hybrid model. Those are self-contained special ed students. And we also today started our first and second graders back in their hybrid model. It takes a lot of work to be able to make sure that everybody is healthy and safe and that instruction is happening in a meaningful way. So I want to make sure that the public knows that not only have we walked through the buildings with the the New Jersey Teachers Association and our local association, as well as our Director of Buildings and Grounds, Business Administrator, and Principals, to every building, looking at the nurses' offices, isolation spaces, classroom spaces, entries, ventilation systems, window systems. We've also done walkthroughs in every building for instruction. Mr. Banya, Mrs. Loconsolo, Mr. V. Meister, Dr. Shoza, I will never get that. 5 years, I'll never get that. Have been in supporting the teachers before the students to make sure that the technology that they need to be able to teach not only the students in front of them in the classroom, but the students in front of them on Google are ready to go. Additionally, we've spent a lot of time working with Google. Nutley is one of what's called the beta districts, the test districts for new features that Google has rolled out, not just in meeting, but in security as well. And we continue to monitor and adjust our practices and provide feedback to Google, again, to make sure that everything we're doing, whether it's instructionally or in our buildings, provides safety, security, and a healthy atmosphere for learning. We're pretty proud of that. As far as our emergency childcare goes, that does phase out on Friday. We've communicated to the families that we have proposals from 2 outside vendors, both of whom would be fee-for-service vendors. We're looking to have them provide services in the elementary schools. And we've also let families know that more than likely there'll be a gap in service in district, because each of these agencies, whichever one is hired by the district, does need to get licensed by the New Jersey Department of Education. So we have been able to identify several off-site childcare providers that do have space in their programs. I have 2 currently. I believe we'll have 4 by the morning, and we'll be communicating that information to our families that are participating in emergency childcare as well. We've had a couple of questions about meal distribution and meal service. Again, another thing that I've been very proud of during our entire time being remote is that Nutley was able to get a grant from the Department of Agriculture to provide meals for all of Nutley's resident children under the age of 18. We started from March until June doing that at a distribution site at the Nutley Family Service Bureau. They were tremendous partners, and their volunteers have continued with us as we've done drive-by curbside service at the John Walker Middle School every Tuesday and Friday between 10:30 and 1:30. Starting on November 9th, when our staff returns to the middle school, that curbside service isn't going to be safe, right? We service about 220 families a week, so it won't be safe to do that. And we are working with Pomptonian to provide an alternative distribution. I expect that it will take place at Washington and Lincoln School for sure, and perhaps some other satellite sites as Pomptonian can staff that with volunteers. And we will be continuing to provide that meal service through the end of December, through December 31st, through the Department of Agriculture grant. I'm hopeful that the federal government will continue to provide these kinds of stimulus programs. It's been a tremendous support to the community to know that they have some food security through the daily breakfast and lunches. And again, Nutley Family Service Bureau has been amazing. They have not turned away any family who needs additional support through the food pantry. For those of you that have reached out to us, thank you. Your gratitude makes us feel good, but in truth, it's the very least we can do for the community. So we're happy to be able to do that. Sorry, my text is blowing up every time I talk about somebody. I guess they want to text me. The final thing that I want to speak about tonight is a staff member that was one of the very first people that I met when I came to the district, which I can't believe was, I'm starting my 5th year. So in 2016, we have 2 employees that have retired or are retiring. Joanne Torres, our payroll clerk, has retired and has, I hope, moved on to doing fun things. We'll have a testimonial for her later on the agenda, but since Madeline's with us tonight, I did want to take the opportunity during my report, perhaps a little emotionally, to say thank you. You have been nothing but warm and welcoming since day one. If I've had a question about Nutley, about the last 28 years in the district, you have been right there with an answer. And not just, 8:30 to 4:30, Monday to Friday, but Saturday night and Christmas Day and Sunday morning. And it has been so appreciated. I will miss you. And again, I wish you only health, happiness, and a lot of love taking care of that new grandbaby of yours. Good luck in all of your future endeavors. Thanks, Mr. Kaczynski.
Thank you, Dr. Glazer, and I'm sure we'll have more to say later on in the testimonial time of our meeting for those 2 wonderful people. Mr. DePisa, Board Secretary report, please.
So once again, I would like to thank all of the board members and their committees for their hard work throughout the month. Michael Parigi, Steve Faris, Tim Coster, all of the maintenance, grounds, and custodians for all of their hard work with gathering and setting up outdoor and indoor spaces for students and staff now to arrive back safely into the buildings. They've done an outstanding job and continue to work hard each day. So I wanted to recognize those individuals publicly. The business office as well, working very, very hard every day. Can't ask for more. My motions are in print, Mr. Kaczynski, with the exception I'd like to bring to the attention to the board. Number 17 under finance is an addendum to the transportation contract from Essex Regional Services from last year. This actually is a credit that's due to the district for over $7,000. It's a 15% reduction from COVID relief from last spring, from March to June. So we have a credit balance that will be issued to future invoices based upon this approval. Number 19 is at the request of the auditor. They wanted me to confirm from 2017 and 18 school year, when you first started the oval discussions and allocating $1 million from capital reserve to the general budget to pay for any upgrades at the oval. This is just a confirmation of that authorization for the $1 million. It's not in any addition to. This is the original allocation, just putting it into print in a motion. And number 20, just to bring everybody's attention, it's self-explanatory, but this is a resolution that we're doing to approve perfect attendance gift cards for 53 individuals based upon a contractual agreement with the EAN. So that is being approved, and in the next few days, those gift cards will be distributed to all of those individuals in the district that received 100% attendance for last 2019-2020. I'd also like to thank Madeline Kakuza for welcoming me into the district from the first day I arrived. She's been nothing but great. I'd also like to thank her for the 29 years of hard work that she put into the district, for being the stability and the constant in the board office over the last 20 plus years. Almost irreplaceable. The other thing is she's a repository for a lot of information, not only in paper, but in her mind. Almost to the point of a photo memory. So I don't know how we're going to do answering some of those questions, but I'm sure I could pick up the phone and get those answered. And I'd also like to wish her good luck, health and happiness in her retirement, but I'm sure I will be speaking to her often within the next, over the next several months. But good luck and God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DePisa. And again, we'll have more to say about that later on. But while we're talking about your department, I want to thank your department and you specifically, even though this board has always been transparent with the business administration, I think the board members, from what I gather, are even more aware now of things that are going on around us, thanks to your diligence and your department. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, and you're welcome.
Mr. Parigi, you're up.
Yes, Mr. President. The Park Oval had its first event on Saturday, October 17th, 2020. Nutley defeated Orange 2021. Congratulations. The scoreboard is being started today. The completion should be Wednesday, and training will be Thursday for the new scoreboard controls. It's a very simple system. Anybody can control it. I'd also like to thank the Park and Shade Commission for helping us disinfect our fields after every event. Timmy is at a soccer game tonight, and after he's done, he takes the machine that they lend us, disinfects the fields, the bleachers, and the stands. Thank you. That's greatly appreciated. After every event, we disinfect our fields. Timmy Coster, our custodial lead, had a meeting with every head custodian and gave them the new cleaning procedures that they must follow. All schools have all the supplies and equipment they need. Steve Farice, our maintenance lead, is working with his maintenance department, getting the heating in all schools. All boilers are up and running. All hand sanitizer stations have been installed outside of every classroom and office. The condenser coil has been repaired for the high school IT department. The temporary AC was removed and returned. We have a mold issue on a few seats at the auditorium at the high school and a piano cover. The remediation started today and should be completed by the end of the week. We had a complaint from a teacher at Lincoln School in a classroom B6. We called an environmental consultant and had an air sample taken. The results came back today. The classroom is negative for mold. The clock tower at the middle school has been refurbished, and we installed new LED backlighting. This has been a project that I wanted to complete, and with the assistance of our new BA, it was completed. This clock has not worked in I don't know how many years. Maybe our historian Charlie Kaczynski could help us with that one.
No, I think we gathered that the last time it worked was 1966, but we'll take it from there.
No.
Excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I'm all done. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parisian. I wanted to personally thank you and your team for what's been going on, and that the citizen that you and I dealt with appreciates what we were able to do in such a short amount of time for them. I wish we could resolve all of our issues that easy, but thank you and your team.
Thank you.
Committee reports. Mrs. Danchek Martin, please. Academic.
Yes, Mr. President. The Academic Committee met on October 21st. Ms. Doyle Marino, Ms. Mafucci, Ms. Suarez, McNulty, Ms. Vidiello, and Ms. Crushy presented a special education update to the committee. The presentation included information on the delivery of special education services in a virtual hybrid environment, specifics to scheduling and progression of resource room replacement instruction, therapies, evaluations, and counseling services during these times. Mr. Dwyer highlighted the approach to the social studies program review process, including surveys for students, teachers, and parents, as well as the release of a request for proposal to include a consultant throughout this process. Ms. Loconsolo, Mr. Banya, and Dr. Glazer highlighted the restart of in-person learning by providing an overview of facilities walkthroughs, technology use, instructional strategies. The committee was also advised to the tiered return of elementary and secondary students, as well as the current challenges and solutions as students return to hybrid and in-person learning. Internal walkthroughs are being conducted on a weekly basis to assess technology readiness and instructional space preparedness in all 5 elementary schools. During this time, a team of central office administrators, along with the technology department and building principals, are looking at classrooms consistent with the tiered return of teachers and students. On October 15th and 16th, representatives from the NJEA and NEA toured all 7 buildings. The NJDOE indicated the beginning of the 2020-2021 CUSAC process. The NJDOE recently released district performance indicators. The district is currently reviewing and will initiate a CUSAC committee to file local DPRs by December 15th. Ms. Loconsolo updated the committee as the progress of the social emotional learning rollout, including professional development schedule, material deployment, and instructional approach. Dr. Glazer updated the committee to developing options in child care services as students return to school. Dr. Glazer updated the committee regarding ongoing facility improvements. The committee discussed security features on the Google Meet platform. Ideas were shared regarding the progression of synchronous learning security. Dr. Glazer highlighted the change in calendar for October 23rd, Professional Development Day. She also updated the committee with personnel matters. Our next meeting will take place on Wednesday, November 18th. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Danchek Martin. Mrs. Zarrow, can we have an update on the policy committee, please?
Yes, Mr. President. The Policy Committee met October 21st. Discussion of policy 8451, control of communicable disease, which was revisited prior to second reading by the committee. Working with the Department of Health and the Hackensack Meridian Medical Care, we determined that for consistency, a temperature will now be defined as 100 degrees, not 100.4. The daily screening tool was updated to reflect this change. Also on for second reading is policy 7480, motor vehicles on school property. In the revised policy, the board prohibits the use or presence of all vehicles for any purpose on any part of the school property other than the areas established for driving or parking, except as expressly permitted by the superintendent or designee for board approval. Obviously, board-approved vehicles and emergency vehicles. The committee also revised the restart and reentry plan, last revisited August 19th. The revision is specific to the pandemic response teams and the role of the nurses for designated isolation space in each school building. The nurses will be doing their regular duties unless there is a student or staff member in the isolation space. In that instance, the nurse will run the isolation space only, and in case of emergency, 911 will be utilized. The nurse will not be going back and forth. The committee also discussed the changes to the Open Public Meeting Act as relates to in-person, hybrid, and fully remote meetings and public participation. The board is following state guidelines and will continue to meet virtually for regular, special, and closed sessions until the new year as of now. The policy committee will be adding additional meetings to prepare for CUSAC, the state monitoring of the district's performance across academics, operations, governance, finance, and personnel. The district performance indicators will be reviewed for the November BOE meeting. The CUSAC review for the county office will take place February 2021. The next policy committee meeting that's added will be October 28th at 5 p.m. and our regularly scheduled meeting for next month will be November 19th. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I know you had to jam a lot of that in just within a matter of an hour or two to get it all done. I appreciate it. Thank you for your hard work on that.
Thank you.
Mr. Ferrara, can we have the Finance Committee, please?
Yes, Mr. President. The Finance Committee met on October 20th. Solutions Architecture was present at the meeting and discussed the punch list remaining on the Oval project, as well as update for the Musco lighting. Discussion regarding the concrete pavers on the north side of the Oval was had, as well as the proposed tree planting and scoreboard installation. The committee asked Solutions Architecture to get a final cost for the 7 lights from Musco Lighting. Advanced Mechanical was present at the meeting and discussed the John Walker Middle School condenser unit, as well as the ductwork at the John Walker Middle School. That work would take place in the spring. The committee also discussed the coil replacement at the high school server room, along with the service necessary for that unit moving forward. Mr. Parigi presented the facility updates on the building PPE and signage, as well as the completion of the repair on the clock at the John Walker Middle School. Mr. Parigi reported that all but 4 bathroom fan motors were now repaired district-wide, and those 4 would be completed by week's end, which would have been last week. Mr. Parigi reported the problem at the Nutley High School auditorium with regards to the stage lights and the HVAC unit, which created the mold on the chairs and some instrument cases. Mr. Parigi is having Advanced Mechanical look at the HVAC unit at the high school auditorium to see if it is working correctly and if any repair is necessary. Mr. Parigi also reported that modular unit number 6 at Washington School is all clear. Mr. DePisa presented tonight's finance updates, as well as the CARES Act spending as of October 16th, which amounts to $188,706. We also discussed the M1 facility report, which is on tonight's agenda, as well as payment number 3 for Dakota Excavating in the amount of $177,968. Mr. DePisa also discussed a potential reduction in revenue to the district from lack of building use, as well as the finance resolutions which are on tonight's agenda, which included the Oval project funding, an invoice from the Suburban Essex GIF for retrospective insurance premiums. Committee also discussed and reviewed an invoice from DeCaro Rubino Architects. And Mr. DePisa reported the destruction of old records from the John Walker Middle School and explained the current notice from the IRS and the process of reconciling that issue with our auditors. Mr. Banya presented a proposal for social studies curriculum writing with the request to place an RFP on tonight's agenda. Mr. Kaczynski asked Mr. DePisa to look into the property that's located at 98 Brookfield Avenue and 32 Reverend Roberts Place to see if there's any potential for use by the Nutley Board of Education. And also, our next meeting, we are going to have Commissioner Evans attend to go over state funding with regard to the town. And also, we're going to have the PTO president from Yanacor School to discuss some projects that they like to do. And our next meeting is set for November 18th.
Thank you, Mr. Ferraro. Good job. Mr. Carnicella, administration, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would you like me to follow up with the Long Range Facilities Committee report as well?
Yes, I know you wear many hats. You might as well.
All right, so we're going to start off with the administrative notes. You're going to see that some of the notes are similar within the committees. So I'm gonna go through those that stand out, and I will briefly go over the ones that have already been discussed. In attendance for our meeting was myself, Ken Riley. Trustee Scalera was unable to attend. I did fill him in with the contents of our. We had Dr. Glazer, Ken Spania, Dr. Soja, as well as Mr. Biemeister, and Mr. Biemeister and Dr. Soja joined the committee to discuss issues of security with Google Meet, Chromebooks, and connectivity. The district is working with Google, including new security features to be released on the Google Meet platform. These features were detailed, ideas were shared regarding the progression of synchronous learning security. Mr. Banya and Dr. Glazer detailed the QSAC process and the upcoming deadlines for submitting the district performance indicators. The district is currently reviewing and will hold the first QSAC committee meeting on November 9th in preparation to file local DPRs, which is, I'm assuming, an acronym for District Performance Reports by December 15th. County office will be completing the QSAC visit in February of 2021. I updated the committee on the long range facilities meeting that was held on October 13th, which I will discuss in the next update. Dr. Glazer provided an update on the damage in the auditorium, which was also discussed prior to these notes. Dr. Glazer shared the progress of procuring emergency childcare, which she discussed in her report. Dr. Glazer and Mr. Banya discussed the reopening walkthroughs, staffing, and questions and answer session for faculty and staff, which was also covered in Glazer's report. Dr. Glazer answered questions regarding tickets at athletic events, winter sports scheduling, the hiring of coaches. Mr. Banya shared the CKCC social emotional learning rollout, which I'm going to ask Mr. Banya to give us the acronym for that, or the meaning of the acronym for that one, because that one I'm not sure on. And Dr. Glazer shared that on Tuesday, October 27th at 3 p.m., staff can participate in a webinar regarding the new healthcare offerings. And we were also provided a personnel update regarding staff return accommodations and the executive assistant to the business administrator position. Our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, November 17th. We as well will have the president of the PTO present to the administrative committee as well, echoing what Mr. Ferraro stated with some of the projects they'd like to take care of over at Yanacor School. So Kent, if you can real quick, just give us the words for that acronym, because when I looked at it, I said, I got nothing.
I put it in the chat: Competence Kids Caring Communities.
There you go. Thank you. All right, so we're going to move over to the Long Range Facility Committee meeting. That meeting was on October 13th. In attendance was myself, Mr. Riley, Mr. Parigi, Kent Pena, Mr. Ferraro, Ms. Danchek Martin, she was on a virtual link, and Mr. DePisa. The committee reviewed the update to our 5-year DOE long-range facility plan. As a district, we're required to provide a 5-year long-range facility document. It is all done electronically. The architects have been working on the updates. In the last meeting, they did provide us with all of the projects throughout the district. we had asked that Mr. Parigi speak with our former Buildings and Grounds Director, Mr. Nicoletti, just to shrink down the list and remove all of the projects that have been completed so that we have a more palatable document. Originally, it was like 18 pages. We're now down to, I think, 11, with projects that are going to be included in our overall conversations as the district goes into year to year. We discussed classroom space opportunities at Lincoln School, Washington School, and Spring Garden. DeCaro and Rubino was asked to provide a feasibility and cost estimate at these 3 schools in areas that occupy our decommissioned boiler areas. The report has been made available to each committee for review, and there will be a discussion on the recommendations of that report, which we will talk about as a board. The committee also reviewed cost estimates for the secure entrance at Yanacor School. Upon the review of the project cost, the committee had a few questions that required additional feedback from our architects. The committee will conduct a full review once the architects provide the additional details. Once reviewed with this committee, it will go to finance for bids and scheduling. Our final discussion was on our preparedness on heating as we approach the colder winter months. As stated in prior reports this evening, it appears that we are ready to go. Our systems are up and operational. Our meeting adjourned at 5:55 p.m. and our next meeting will take place in November with a date to be determined based on the missing information that we are requiring from the architects. And that concludes my 2 reports.
Thank you, Mr. Carnicella. And as everyone can see, it's been a busy time for our superintendent, our Mr. Banya, the administration, the teachers, and our board members. It's a busy time with all the action that's going on. I appreciate everything that you do for our community. And there's just not enough we can say for the time and energy you all put in for what we have accomplished. Thank you very much. We now come to the portion of our meeting where we allow members of the public to address the board. In this section, we allow questions or comments on resolutions only. Our board resolution number 167 will last 20 minutes for these communications. Each person should be limited to 3 minutes, and we ask you to try to stay within this requirement. Speakers may speak more than once only after all others wishing to speak on a topic have been heard. All statements will be directed to me as the chairperson. No one may address board members individually. Please be reminded that if your statement is too lengthy, abusive, obscene, irrelevant, or redundant, your participation may be terminated. Please remember to state your name and address each and every time you address the board. Does anyone have any questions at this time? Mr. Viehmeister, are there any questions in the chat room?
There are currently no questions in the chat or by email.
Thank you very much. We'll take resolutions. Mrs. Danchak-Martin, will you take academic, please?
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to move academic resolutions 1 through 3 as written.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnicella,
Yes.
Mrs. Dancheck-Martin,
Yes.
Mr. DeMayo,
Yes.
Mr. Ferraro, Mrs. Quirk,
Yes.
Mr. Riley,
Yes.
Mr. Scalera,
Yes.
Ms. Aram,
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski,
Yes. Mr. Carnicella, will you take administration, please?
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to move administration resolutions 1 through 3 as written.
Second.
Discussion? Sure. I'm sorry, was there a question? Okay.
There was
No,
not, it
roll
looks
call.
like Sal Ferraro was logged in and twice, and it just looks like one went down.
I'm
Okay.
back.
All right, thank you. Roll call, Ms. McCusa, please.
Mr. Carnicella,
Yes.
Mrs. Dancheck-Martin,
Yes.
Mr. DeMayo,
Yes.
Mr. Ferraro,
Yes.
Mrs. Quirk,
Yes.
Mr. Riley,
Yes.
Mr. Scalera,
Yes.
Ms. Aram,
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski.
Yes. Mr. Ferraro, will you take finance, please?
Yes, Mr. President, I move finance resolutions 1 through 21 as written.
Second.
1 second, Sal, Mr. Ferraro. Mr. DePisa, was there more than 21? Would you put the other two on, or the other one on?
No, 21 is fine. The other two are under personnel.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm sorry. All right, you got a second on that?
Discussion?
Yeah, I'm not there yet. I need a second.
I did already. Second from.
Frank
Second.
DeMayo.
That's fine. Discussion, yes.
Mr. President, I have one question for the Mr. DePisa. On the bill list regarding the Pomptonian expense, help me understand what that number includes and what the offset from the grant from the Department of Agriculture is based on that expense, and how long, what are we doing in January?
I don't have the bills in front of me. I could tell you that the bills are for distribution at the middle school. They're for labor. They're for supplies. There's also satellite food going to special needs school in Belleville that we get reimbursed from. And that's all I can speak of right now off the top of my head, sir.
All right, so if you could just, I mean, I'm going to approve this bill list obviously tonight, but if you could get back to me in the next day or two on exactly what that number means. It was close to $40,000, I believe, and I'm just wondering, you know, how long that continues for, and again, once that grant is gone, where are we, and what's the offset from the grant versus that 40,000?
Okay, no problem.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Riley. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnasella? Mr. Carnasella?
Yes.
Mrs. Stancheck Martin?
Yes.
Mr. DeMayo?
Yes.
Mr. Ferraro?
Yes.
Mrs. Quirk?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Scalera?
Yes.
Ms. Zarrow?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes. Mr. Scalera, will you take personnel, please?
Yes, Mr. Skazinski, I'd like to move personnel resolutions 1 through 4 and read testimonials 3 and 4 if one ready.
Second.
On personnel number 3 testimonial, whereas Mrs. Joanne Torres has tendered a resignation for the purpose of employment as payroll manager effective October 1st, 2020. And I signified her intention of retiring.
Hold on, Mr. Scalera, 1 second. If you're not on the microphone, please turn your microphone off.
Would you like me to start again on that?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, again, please.
Whereas Mrs. Joanne Torres has tendered a resignation for the purpose of retirement as the district's payroll manager effective October 1st, 2020, and has signified her intention of retiring from active service. And whereas Mrs. Torres has worked in the Nutley Public Schools for a period of 7 years, and whereas through the years, Mrs. Torres has exemplified the finest qualities of the position at all times. Now be it resolved that the Board of Education expressed to Mrs. Torres its deep appreciation for her long and faithful service and extends to her best wishes for continued health and happiness, and be it further resolved that this resolution be part of the minutes of this meeting.
Thank you. Any board members like to make a comment about Mrs. Torres? Now's the time to do it. Again, I will start it off by saying thank you very much for the hard work you've given us. It's a difficult position, certainly with the transition we were going through, probably even more difficult. And I know you were wearing many hats at the time. We appreciate your loyalty, appreciate your hard work, and wish you much good fortune in the future.
Resolution 4, testimonial. Whereas Mrs. Madeline Kukuza Zielinski has tendered a resignation for the purpose of retirement as administrative assistant to the business administrator effective November 1st, 2020, and has signified her intention of retiring from active service. And whereas Mrs. Zielinski has worked in Nutley Public Schools for a period of 29 years, and whereas through the years, Mrs. Zielinski has exemplified the finest qualities of the secretarial position at all times. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education expresses to Mrs. Zelinski its deep appreciation for her long and faithful service and extends her best wishes for continued health and happiness, and be it further resolved that this resolution be made part of the minutes of this meeting.
Thank you. Now's the time, board members.
May I speak first?
Oh, go ahead. No, go for it. You were talking already. Go.
You're right.
We'll continue. Madeline, it's been great being here with you. You're always behind the scenes, getting the work done. You're also enjoyable to be with at most times when we're not in extended hours. But really, you, your family, I hope that you enjoy the rest of your family and enjoy your time. And it was great having you here. And we will truly miss you. As David DePisa said, Mr. DePisa said, I'm sure we'll be speaking with you, but congratulations.
Thank you. Mrs. Quirk.
Madeline, I just have to say that you always take care of everybody. Like, you really do. You've always been everybody's mother. Even when I wasn't on the board and I was, one of the citizens, you always made sure that everybody was taken care of, everybody had things done. And then when we became on the board, it was just, you just continued. So we will miss you, but we know that you've really earned this retirement. Go out there and have fun with your grandbaby and enjoy. Wishing you the very best.
Thank you. Mrs. Arrow.
So, Madeline, you were probably, if not one of the first person to congratulate me and welcome me onto the board. You've always been nothing but short of amazing. You've helped out in every aspect, even things that were not the hat that you wore the hat. I want to thank you and tell you it's been a pleasure to work for you. I consider you a friend, and go enjoy that grandbaby because I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mrs. Danchek Morton.
Yep. Madeline, personally, you've been a great help to me, especially when I started here on the board. I wish you nothing but happiness and congratulations on a well-deserved retirement. Enjoy your grandchild. And I have to say that I'm definitely going to miss you.
Thank
All
you.
right. I'm going to go next.
Go ahead, sure.
Okay, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
So Madeline. So what I will say is I want to just share a little story. When I first came on to the Board of Education, first couple of years, Madeline was absolutely amazing. Was a great mentor of being that guiding light through the different personalities, the different movements of the things that happen. I was fortunate to be past president on the Board of Education. And I will tell you that those 3 years, Madeline was just absolutely amazing. When the challenges came up, she was the first person to step in and say, look, do what you do. Go out there and be a leader. It's not always easy. It's not always fun. You're probably going to have people that are not going to like the things that you need to say, but you need to go out there and you need to be a leader for the community. She has been behind, like, that's one thing that I could always say to every member about Madeline is keep your head up, do the right thing, move in the direction that you know we need to be at. And she's always been that beacon that has been able to make sure that I continue to move in that direction. And I can't thank her enough, because I think as a result of that, as a district, we've continued to grow. And I know that as much as we're going to lose someone wonderful in Madeline, I also know that it's time. She needs to go, and she needs to enjoy that grandchild. She needs to experience that part of her life without the pressures that come with the role that she's in. You will certainly be missed. I do have your cell number, so you don't get away. You may be a little further, but you don't get away. And all the best from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you, Mr. Carnicella. And Madeline, it's too bad he didn't follow your advice. But aside from that, Danny knows the close working relationship you have. Mr. Riley knows as a president with yourself. There's the hours that we put in behind the scenes are just, you can't imagine. I appreciate your hard work. You and I have been through some good times, some difficult times, and some very good times. and no one really knows what you were going through when we were in our transition period, when we didn't have a BA per se. We had a tentative BA or a person that filled in, but you were there for us. And the citizens of Nutley need to appreciate that. Of course, the board members do appreciate the time that you put in as our BA, for lack of a better term. And I appreciate you, and I know you've earned it, and look forward to enjoying your granddaughter. Mr. Riley.
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. I have the pleasure of not only knowing Madeline as a amazing secretary, but an amazing mom that raised some amazing kids that I'm fortunate to have met and known and loved along the way. I started attending board meetings almost 30 years ago, so her and I go back to her original days. I started in 2004 as a board member. She'll be missed. The board has no idea how much we're going to miss her. She's worked for more transitions than probably any board secretary in the state of New Jersey. She's been through maybe 10, maybe more board secretaries. I've seen a lot of them as well. Madeline, thank you. You've been amazing to me and the rest of this board, and I thank you and I love you and good luck.
Thank you.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir, Mr. Ferrara.
Just want to congratulate Madeline on her retirement. Wish her all the best. She deserves it. Madeline has known me. I've known Madeline for actually close to 31 years. She knows things about me that I probably don't know about me. Having been there when I first started dating my wife, I know Madeline, how close she was with my wife, and I just wish her all the best. Just enjoy your family, your daughters, your granddaughter. She's beautiful, and I thank you for all your hard work and all your dedication to the district. And I just wish you only the best. And enjoy your retirement. We all love you, and thank you.
You're so right, Mr. Ferrara. I forgot to tell you that Madeline's starting to write a book, so we might regret some of the things we're saying here tonight when that book comes out. But Mr. DeMeo.
I don't think he's on.
Okay.
I think he left. Can I just say that?
Madeline, of course, it's your night.
Wait, I'm here, Madeline. I'm here. Hold on 1 second.
Oh, you are.
I don't want to cut you off. We haven't only known each other for a very short period of time, with me being here for about a year and a half now. But in that year and a half, you've kind of steered me in the right direction as a new board member. Kept me on track, and kind of forced my hand a few times to make sure I did all the right things. So I just want to make sure I last but not least say thank you, appreciate you, and go enjoy that grandbaby, and we'll be here if you need us. Thanks again.
Thank you, Frank. Yes, Madeline, I know you have something to say.
Well, you make it very hard after all that, but I just want to thank you all for the kind words and the well wishes. I really do appreciate them. I want to thank Dr. Glazer, the board, all of you, Ian V. Meister, and administration for all their support during the years. It's been a ride and again, good times and bads, but we all got through it. I wish David DePisa and my replacement much success in the positions, in their new positions in the business office. I will miss my colleagues in central office and the business office, but it's time for me to spend more time with my husband, my family, and my granddaughter, Talia. So it's bittersweet. I got to pinch myself to realize that this is really my last board meeting. I'm just automatic and just do things. But again, thank you all for your support. I really do appreciate it.
You're a wonderful person, Madeline. You've been an asset to Nutley. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Arrow.
I guess I do a roll call now.
Oh, yes, we have to do the roll call. That's it. That's why you're here, Madeline.
Keep you in line, right?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Carnicella.
So if we all vote no, do you have to stay?
No, my daughter's already got plans. Forget it.
Okay, yeah,
My
sure.
kids, my family comes first. Sorry, guys.
Yes.
But okay, thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Dancheck Martin,
Yes.
Mr. DeMayo,
I vote yes on all except number 1. I will abstain.
Mr. Ferraro,
Abstaining to number 1, yes on 2 to 4.
Mrs. Quirk,
Yes.
Mr. Riley,
Yes.
Mr. Scalera,
Yes.
Ms. Arrow,
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski.
Yes. Now, Mrs. Arrow, will you do policy resolution, please?
No one wants to hear about policy now.
I
Yes.
know, not after that, right?
I move policy resolution 1 as stated, Mr. President.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnicella,
Yes.
Mrs. Dancheck Martin,
Yes.
Mr. DeMayo,
Yes.
Mr. Ferraro,
Yes.
Mrs. Quirk,
Yes.
Mr. Riley,
Yes.
Mr. Scalera,
Yes.
Ms. Arrow,
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski.
Yes. In this section, we allow questions or comments on all school-related matters. Our regulations allow 30 minutes for these communications. Again, each person should be limited to 3 minutes, and we ask you to try to stay within this requirement. Speakers may speak more than once only after all others wishing to speak on a topic have been heard. As I stated earlier, all statements will be directed to me as the chairperson, and no one may address board members individually. Please be reminded that if your statement is too lengthy, abusive, obscene, irrelevant, or redundant, your participation may be terminated. Please remember to state your name and address each and every time you address the board. Does anyone have any questions at this time? Mr. Viehmeister.
There's no more questions in the chat.
Thank you. Any old business to come before the board? Any new business to come before the board?
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Okay, I just have a quick statement. Can I just read a
Of
quick
course.
statement? Okay, thank you. You know, as a board member, one of my roles is to follow up on inquiries from the community, and another role is to ensure that our schools are run well. This is something that we all know. At our academic meeting last week, I asked Dr. Glazer a question about an inquiry about an incident that had occurred regarding a student. And I had received this information from a community member, a resident, and a parent. When I asked Dr. Glazer the question, her response to me was, I can't tell you that. I find that response unacceptable. Under our policy 5512R for harassment, bullying, and intimidation, we, the board, have the right to know not the student's identity, but the incident and any recommendations for interventions for the affected students. I have to say that I'm uncomfortable finding out information from the public before I, a BOE member, have been informed. When I received an inquiry from a resident, I have a responsibility to seek out any information that impacts our community and schools. And I send Dr. Glazer some emails, but I don't get a response. I really do feel that we as the board have to work on communication, and we can't do that unless we have the information that we need to ensure that our students are treated fairly. So thank you.
Mrs. Quirk, excuse me, Dr. Glazer. If you care to have this discussion in an open meeting, I don't have a problem. Did you pick up the phone and call Dr. Glazer like the rest of us do?
Well, I just feel like I did speak about it during the meeting, and I just feel that if there's something that we can't know about, and I understand that there's certain things that we don't know about or can't know about students' identities, and I get that, but I just feel that, you know, finding things out in a paper before we find things out, it's uncomfortable, and I just think that we really need to work on communication, and that's my only request.
And I understand that, and I appreciate.
Sorry, I'm just going to repeat what I did say at the academic committee. This is not about communication. when there's a police investigation, there is absolutely nothing that any of us can comment on, period. It's not an HIB. It's not a school district issue. It's a criminal investigation, and we do not have any place commenting. I have no ability to say more than that. If you're hearing from community members, I can't stop that. But again, our role is to not comment on a police investigation.
True, but my feeling is that, this was after the point, so it's not something that we can even comment on, but my concern was what was going to happen to the student once the student came back, because we've had other instances where students have had situations that have gone public, and we had an intervention model, things that we did for those students in order to ensure that they were making a coming back into the fold and understanding.
Right. And again, we can talk about,
is that we can
talk globally about the intervention models. We can talk globally about what things are in place, but we cannot talk about individual students.
No, and as I don't want to, I just want to make sure that
again, you asked about a specific incident, about specific students, and I am still not able to comment.
I don't think it's about, and Ms. Quirk, please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think it's so much about the particular student information as much as being apprised to the actual situation. It's very uncomfortable and sometimes catches you off guard when you have, like you say, an outside source or a community member coming to you with something, and it's the first time you hear about it, and it's something that maybe you should have already heard about. So I don't want to speak to the specific situation of the child, but I think the generality, right, is just being more aware of situations in general, not student information, because no one would ever ask for that.
So in general, we do communicate, as you know, with the board of every situation. This is a community incident. This is not something that happened in the schools. It is not something that, again, was a harassment, intimidation, or bullying that the board would see an investigation and have to vote on. This was a criminal incident in the community, and again, not something that's within our purview to comment on.
And it is difficult. It is difficult as board members when we all hear that information coming from the outside, and when we want to know ourselves, and sometimes we assume they're knowing more than us. We were trying very hard to keep the communications going. I don't know about this particular incident because it doesn't concern us or me, but it's difficult when you do hear that from outside sources. So, I mean, I would suggest, like I do to every board member, to reach out for Dr. Glazer and try to get the answers, or Ken Pena, and try to get the answers so you are appraised of everything that's going on. It's difficult. I feel for you.
Okay, thank you.
And the only other thing I wanted to say, just because I don't want us to miss it, somebody put something in the chat while we were talking about new business, so I just don't want to miss their question.
Okay. Mr. Viehmeister.
Yes, we do have one additional question in the chat now. Mrs. Giallo, if you want to unmute and ask your question.
All right, we can read the question if you can get to it, Ian, please.
The question is, I have questions about childcare, but without the detail. Mrs. Giallo, if you want to unmute, hit the red microphone button to unmute.
All right, perhaps Dr. Glazer can get back to her through an email or something if you have her information, Dr. Glazer, about childcare.
I could try.
Okay, or I'll do it if I can get access to it.
We can, as long as her child's name's the same as her name, we can find it through real time. I was kind of vamping to see if she was still with us. I could unmute.
Here now. She is here now.
Technical difficulties, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, no problem.
So as far as the lapse in child care, is there any idea how long that will be, or when a decision is going to be made for us to know where the kids will be going. And again, I have a child that's in the ABA program in Radcliffe. He does have special needs, and will that staff be able to accommodate children with special needs? And, the cost of it, like, just, a bunch of different answers that as a parent, I would like to know, because these, childcare can really affect whether I still have a job or not.
So as I said at the beginning of the meeting, we've identified 2 outside vendors. Both of those outside vendors would need to be licensed to provide service in the Nutley Public Schools. So before they could come in, there might be a gap in service between Friday and after that. And we have been provided with a list of area child care providers that have space in their program, their fee for service. And as I said during my report, we'll be sending that flyer out with the information to all of our emergency child care parents in the morning.
Okay.
Does that help you at all?
Yes and no. I mean, it's just one of those things where the lapse, like, I know that there's no idea of how long it will be, but I mean, to send them to another facility like a daycare or, one of those places that does have room for a child, is it going to be something where if it is only short term or, however long it will be until the kids are phased in for more than 2 days a week, well, are they going to be willing to accept a student for that long? And then.
So I don't know the answer. There's a list of places and, we can help you do that research. I believe that the gap is out of our control. I've talked to the Department of Education. They are who does the licensing. Although both of these companies are national companies who also have operations even in Essex County, the state is requiring them to be licensed for Nutley. So there more than likely will be a gap because the state requires site visits and a number of other things. We can certainly help you with the provider list and finding one that can accommodate your child.
Mrs. Giolello, I would recommend that you reach out for Dr. Glazer, maybe tomorrow or something, and see if we can work through this, because we'd like to do as much as we can. And Dr. Glazer hopefully will have more information by tomorrow.
Yeah, we said we would communicate tomorrow with the families that are in the program.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Whereas the Board of Education will be discussing matters, that's it. Whereas the Board of Education will be discussing matters exempt from public discussion pursuant to NJSA 10-4-12. Now therefore be resolved that the Board of Education recess to close executive session at this time to discuss personnel and legal matters. Be it further resolved that the results of this discussion be made public by inclusion on the agenda of a subsequent meeting of the Board of Education, or when the reason for discussing such matters in closed session no longer exists. I'll hear an adjournment. Thank you, and I'll see you on our executive session. Okay, thank you.
Bye, everybody. Good night.
Thanks all you Radcliffe teachers for signing in. We noticed that you're there. A long day for you, and we appreciate you.
Thanks, Radcliffe.